Hello, everybody. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. Very strange fallout happening from last night's episode of The Bachelor. A 2-on-1 date is always a conundrum, right? There's always a villain, a Chad Johnson, a Shanae. They always get the 2-on-1 date, and now we have Sydney v. Maria. If you watched last night's episode, you should have by now. It's no longer a spoiler. The rose went to Maria, a girl named Maria, and Sydney was, left devastated. She shared an Instagram reel of some of the hate that she's receiving. I think multiple things can be true. I think you can feel bad for someone when internet hates you. I know it sucks trying to deal with crazy trolls online. I think it's the lowest form of IQ in our community is when someone will reach out. I mean, I would be so mortified to find out that someone would reach out to someone else that's also a fan of mine. I would never want that. I would actually condemn it, as I've condemned all forms of emotional or physical violence or threats thereof. But either way, Sydney exposes it. We're going to get into it right now. And then I'm going to share with you what Maria had to say. So here's Sydney's reel. Have a listen.
Ditch. You're skank. You are as low and gross and scummy as they come.
I know that was really hard to hear. That is just 2 of the thousands of hurtful messages I've received these last couple weeks. I didn't know I could feel this low in my entire life. Every time I open up Instagram, TikTok, I'm constantly reminded of all the insecurities that it took me so long to overcome. To hear you're ugly, you look like a man, it almost feels like I went back to square one. I was told that I'd be better off dead. People struggle with suicide ideation. That is something that should not be taken lightly. That is not something that we should be joking about. We, as a society, need to be better. We need to do better. We deserve better. It's important to be aware that words you use, they pierce very deeply. When you are sending hate to me or another cast member, you may hate the character that was created on the show, but who's actually receiving that hate is a real human being. I can't speak of details of the show. However, I can say there are certain things that I wish I did differently and things I wish I didn't say. I will be keeping my comments off to protect my peace, my family and friends' peace as well. Thank you for listening.
Look, it's complicated, right? This, of course, is in response to the fallout from this 2-on-1 date. The accusing, I mean, she made some heavy accusations. She accused Maria of being emotionally abusive or verbally abusive, whatever she said. All because Maria tried to hold her words accountable and say, what are you talking about? What did I do or say that was so wrong? Why do I deserve this? And of course, Sydney wasn't even the initial person in the beef. I mean, we could go through it ad nauseum. Here's what goes down, right? You go on these shows, they take your phone, they take your livelihood, and you become a pawn for the show. Sydney probably became a pawn for the show. She probably was of the personality type that was easy to manipulate, and the producers probably gassed her up. Now, does that mean she's willing? Well, sort of. But again, as you know, as been said by the UCAN Foundation, there should be warnings on these episodes. Not that I would probably do too much for some of these crazy audience members, but there should be some sort of warning that says what you're about to watch is a slice of reality, but not the total reality. Like, yes, Sydney's a real person. That's her real name. But the conditions she was put into are not something that would be conducive to normal behavior. But again, so am I defending her? No. It's so complicated, right? Because you want there to be sort of consequences for people's actions, but also, who the hell are we? Who the hell are we to ask for consequences to Sydney's exes? And what would those consequences be? Voice noting somebody, telling them in their comment section that they're a bad person? I mean, that's ridiculous. Sydney, I'm sure, is not a bad person. But Did she play the card that would get her possibly on Paradise for Redemption story? Maybe, but they might not even have a Paradise anymore. Like, how did that work out for Shanae? You know, Shanae seemed to be like a relatively normal person, but she was hated on her season. Sure, she had a little bit of a redemption arc. So let's just barrel through some of the different memes that are out there. Sydney passing the title of season villain after leaving. Of course, that's to Leia. Because Leia, accused Medina of being friendly with Maria after she was friends with Sydney, as if you could only be friends with one versus the other in the dumbest fight ever. Someone really needs to help Leia perspectivize this fiasco before it's too late. Of course, Leia not maybe mastering the English language. You're on camera the entire time, right? Exactly. Love Maria, hate this for her. Maria did nothing wrong. And she has no reason to defend Sydney. I'm sure Sydney will be fine. The girl has slashed a man's car tires before. Well, we don't know about that. But here's what we do know about Sydney. She's pulling the card that people do when they have to face the consequences of the internet not liking them, which is the card she's pulling is, oh, I'm the victim of all of this online abuse. And it's like, maybe. But it's also probably a consequence to your actions. I'm dealing with the same thing with Janie Dodo Bird, where she's claiming all of these people are out to get her. And it's like, well, in part, people are maybe mean to you online because they feel like you were a bad person to others. I've always said an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. I think redemption in that form is a very low form of energy. I think the best way to overcome any situation is to live your best life. I know Maria's doing just that. Let's see if we have a clip of Maria. Well, someone posted this. Something is bizarre to me about a 23-year-old girl, Leia, confronting a 31-year-old mature woman about absolute nonsensical high school drama, Medina. Now, look, we've ripped on Medina about that initial comment where she was like, felt bad that she's old. She's 31. And my whole point being is that there's always someone older, and it's not, you're not going through a struggle just because you're aging. We're all doing it. Anyway, so it goes on and on. Here's what Maria posted. How you gonna be mad on vacation? And Jess Gerard said, go off then, Queen. Tammy said, and that's how it's done. So clearly the women of The Bachelor sided with Maria here in this 2-on-1 date, which of course ended with Maria getting the rose. Even pilot Rachel Recchia, known for her own messes, said, I think Maria's eating Sydney alive with that dress. That being that Maria was sultry, I imagine is what her point was. Even Jen Parisi got in on it. Are you an actress? Are you lying to me? Of course, that was when Jen Parisi and Shanae had their 2-on-1, which was probably a little bit more of an even balance of villain v villain. The Maria verse Sydney was clearly one-sided, like stop the fight. What else do we have here? Those are for later. I think that's it. I think that's all we have as far as what was said here. I'd love to know your thoughts, but again, it's just frustrating to me. Like Sydney exposing fan hate. Sure, you're going to get fan hate. I hate to say that. I hate that the audience is the way that it is to an extent, but that's also the internet. That's like if someone got caught shoplifting and then a bunch of strangers online told them to go kill themselves. I'm getting death threats online. No, you're not. Those aren't credible death threats. Those are anonymous people being anonymous. And I don't condone it. I just know that it exists, and Sydney can't properly overcome whatever her issues are if she immediately goes into the position of victimhood. And that's what we see a lot of people do. She did that with Maria. She immediately is like, oh, my health is, I can't control the feelings I'm feeling of anxiety and all these things because of Maria. Like she immediately jockeyed for victimhood. She's doing the same now. She made that weird reel about gaslighting and what it is, and then she eventually deleted it. Nobody wants peace for Sydney more than me. But I have to say, you will not overcome your monsters, your demons, if you think that everyone's out to get you. Now, these trolls clearly are, but there's a lot of good people that would say, hey, Sydney, take the loss, go on some podcasts, talk about your headspace, but to think that you were like vastly manipulated by the producers, maybe, but let's get something positive out of it and not just play the victim. I don't know. Let me know what your thoughts are. there's your big update. We'll have Bachelor tonight. We'll have more content to talk about later.